Okay, let's unpack this. We've all noticed the dramatic shift in how we hydrate.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
used to be so simple.
Yeah.
You either had plain water or, maybe you grabbed a neon-colored sports drink if you were running a marathon.
Right, that was hydration 1.0, a really simple fuel model. Glucose for energy, electrolytes for recovery.
But now, we're deep into the age of Hydration 2.0. I mean, the market is absolutely flooded with these specialized lifestyle wellness powders.
And they promise everything: mental clarity, immune support.
Exactly. And they cost about $2 a stick.
Hmm.
So our mission today is to really get to the bottom of the question our listener brought us. Is a squeeze of lemon juice truly enough for my daily needs? Or are these high-sodium commercial powders a biological necessity?
That is the perfect mission. We're going to be synthesizing a ton of research physiological studies, market analysis, but especially the really exhaustive reviews published by Sundried.
Right.
We want to cut through all that marketing noise and just find the science, figure out where your money is actually best spent.
So give us the headline before we dive into the mechanisms. What did the science tell you?
Well, the verdict is clear, but it's nuanced. For the person doing moderate exercise or just dealing with, daily dehydration, natural alternatives can be incredibly potent.
But there's a catch.
There's a big catch. They only work if you understand the critical balance you need: sodium, flavor, and fluid volume. If you're just drinking straight lemon water, you're missing the point completely. We need to find your personal Goldilocks zone.
The sweet spot between efficiency and costs.
Exactly.
I think we have to start with the most basic problem, which is, why don't we just drink plain water all day? I know I stopped drinking even when I'm pretty sure I'm still thirsty.
That phenomenon it's crucial to understand why these flavored powders even exist. It's called voluntary dehydration.
Voluntary dehydration.
It's a physiological hurdle. You stop drinking because the sensory monotony of plain water, combined with that initial fluid you drink, it tricks your brain.
It thinks balance is restored.
It falsely perceives that balance is restored, even when you are still several percentage points down in hydration.
So taste is really the first line of defense.
Precisely. The data backs this up over and over. Palatability, whether it's tart or sweet, it increases fluid intake by a massive 40 to 50% compared to plain water.
So that $2 stick is, first and foremost, selling a solution to the boring water problem.
That's the first problem it solves. Yes.
But beyond just getting the volume in, we care about the speed.
Right.
If I'm really depleted, how fast does that water actually hit my bloodstream?
Absolutely. And that brings us to the physiological holy grail of absorption. To understand this market, you first have to understand the body's fastest express lane for water.
Okay.
It's a mechanism called the sodium glucose-linked transporter 1, or SGLT1.
That sounds a bit dense, but I know it's fundamental.
Yeah.
So break it down for us. How does SGLT1 work?
This pathway was actually discovered during really critical cholera research in the 1960s.
Yeah.
They needed to figure out how the small intestine moves fluids most efficiently. So think of SGLT1 as a revolving door, a dedicated speed pump on your intestinal wall. And it needs two specific keys to work:
Your keys.
one sodium ion and one glucose molecule. When both of those keys are present and bind to the door, the solutes get actively pumped across the intestinal lining.
And when those solutes get pumped across, what happens then?
Well, that movement creates a powerful osmotic gradient. Because the inside of the cell is suddenly full of sodium and glucose, water naturally follows.
It just floods in?
It quite literally floods in. It's called solvent drag. It's the body's fastest, most efficient way to absorb water.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, because so many of these Hydration 2.0 brands, they proudly boast zero sugar or keto friendly.
That is the aha moment. That is the thing the listener needs to catch. By marketing themselves as zero sugar, they are technically removing the glucose key.
So they're disabling the body's fastest active transport pathway.
They are. They then have to rely on slower, passive diffusion to pull that water across.
Wait, so let me ask a practical question. If my kids drink plain old school Gatorade, which is high in sugar but maybe lower in sodium than these new clinical powders, are they getting the sugar key but missing the sodium key to open that door?
That's a fantastic question. And yes, that balance is critical. If the sodium concentration is too low, the pump won't fire effectively. You need both keys in the right ratio.
Right.
That's why the traditional WHO oral rehydration solution has very specific amounts of both. Now, the modern sugar-free market, they're trying to cheat that system.
And how are they trying to speed things up without the calories from sugar?
The new frontier is using amino acids. nutrients, specifically something called L-alanine L-glutamine.
Okay.
This molecule gets absorbed through a separate, very fast pathway in the gut, which also encourages water to follow. It's an expensive way to try and replicate that SGLT1 speed without the caloric hit of glucose.
That does make the price point start to make a little more sense. So SGLT1 is about speed, but what about comfort? What dictates how much water sits in your stomach without that awful sloshing feeling?
That's tonicity, right?
Correct. Tonicity is just the concentration of solutes in the fluid compared to your blood. Pure water is hypotonic. It has a lower concentration.
So what happens when you drink a lot of it?
It suppresses your thirst too quickly. It dilutes your blood sodium before you're actually fully rehydrated. And there's that voluntary dehydration again.
And if you go the other way, the high-sugar sports drinks.
Those are often hypertonic. The stomach senses that high caloric load and it slows everything down. It delays gastric emptying. That's the sloshing.
So the goal is?
The goal is the sweet spot, an isotonic or slightly hypoconic solution. Enough sodium to hold onto the fluid, but not so much stuff in it that it causes gut distress.
Let's pivot to the core of this then, the lemon juice investigation. Is lemon water a worthwhile hydration strategy, or is it just a healthy tasting ritual? It is good for you, but we have to be really honest about its limits as a rapid rehydration tool. And the sun-dried research is great here because it really looks at the numbers and shows this electrolyte gap.
Okay, so let's look at the basic nutritional reality of one lemon.
A lemon is great for vitamin C. You get 30 to 40 milligrams. It's got a decent amount of potassium, around 140, 150 milligrams. But here is the critical data point for rehydration.
What's the sodium?
Less than 2 milligrams.
2, which compared to what we lose in even a moderate workout is, I mean, it's basically 0.
Exactly. The physiological mismatch is just, it's stark. An intense sweat session, just 1 hour, can cost you anywhere between 500 and 1,500 milligrams of sodium.
Wow.
Lemon water alone leaves this massive sodium deficit. You're drinking fluid, but without the sodium to hold it in your vascular system, the body just gets rid of it.
And there's clinical proof of this from the sources, right?
Yeah.
It's a study comparing different drinks.
There is. They compared a full carbohydrate electrolyte drink, or CE, with lemon tea and plain distilled water. The CE drink, that resulted in 52% fluid retention. Really strong.
And the lemon tea. How did that stack up?
Significantly lower, only 36% retention. And this is the key consequence. Because the sodium is so low, your body registers that dilution and immediately triggers urination.
So you're just processing it and getting rid of it.
You've just spent 15 minutes processing and excreting the fluid you just drank. So from a strict fluid retention view, it's largely ineffective for acute rehydration.
Okay, so if it fails the retention test, why does lemon water have this powerful, almost medicinal reputation? Where does it win?
It wins big in 2 areas. First, palatability, like we said. It cures the boring water problem. It makes you drink 40% more volume. That's a huge win for chronic hydration.
And the second area, the hidden benefit.
Renal health, kidney health. This is where it's invaluable. Lemons are rich in citric acid, which metabolizes into citrate.
And citrate does what?
Citrate binds to urinary calcium. It acts as a powerful prophylactic against calcium oxalate kidney stones.
That's huge.
It's a massive benefit, particularly for athletes or people on high-protein diets who are prone to dehydration. So you see, it's a structural health tool, not an acute rehydration tool. That's the distinction.
That structural versus acute distinction is so useful.
Yeah.
Okay, now that we know lemon water alone isn't enough for heavy loss, let's talk about the solution. The sodium imperative. Why is sodium the master regulator?
Sodium, or Na plus AA, is the key because it dictates retention, not just absorption. Think of it this way. You sweat heavily, you drink plain water, you dilute the sodium in your blood.
Ugh.
Your kidneys interpret that as a signal that your total fluid volume is too high, even if you're dehydrated. So they respond by aggressively excreting water. That's diuresis.
Sodium stops that false signal.
Stops the false signal. It tells your body, hold on to this water, keep it in the blood plasma where it belongs.
So let's define when these commercial products become a necessity, not just a luxury. Let's do scenario A. The moderate exerciser, training for less than 60 minutes.
For this person, the physiological need is quite low. Your body's sodium stores they're vast, 40,000 to 50,000 milligrams.
Wow.
The 500 milligrams you might lose in a short workout is a tiny fraction. It's easily replaced by your next meal. So the verdict here, commercial products are a luxury item.
For flavor and convenience.
Exactly, not a biological requirement.
And scenario B, the endurance athlete.
Yeah.
going over 90 minutes, or that person who's visibly a salty sweater.
This is where necessity kicks in. Physiological need is high. Performance drops sharply at just 2% fluid loss. As sodium goes, blood volume plummets.
And this is where plain water becomes dangerous.
Crucially, yes. Drinking plain water in this state can lead to hyponatremia, water toxicity. That's where you get severe cramping, nausea, confusion. For long activities, electrolyte replacement is functionally necessary.
What about all the marketing for secondary minerals? Magnesium, potassium. Are we undervaluing them?
We are heavily over-marketing them for acute rehydration. They're essential for health, yes, but you lose very little magnesium in sweat, less than 20 milligrams an hour sometimes.
So sodium is king.
Sodium is the king of acute rehydration and blood volume. When you get a cramp, it is far more likely due to neuromuscular fatigue and sodium imbalance than a sudden magnesium deficit. Focus on the NAB plus drug.
Great clarity. So let's deconstruct this high-cost market. Based on the deep analysis from Sun-Dried, what are the three main archetypes we're paying for?
Okay, first you have the medical hydrators. They are designed for speed. They've got sugar to activate SGLT1. They're best for, recovering from illness, a long flight, a hangover.
Right, when you need fluid in fast.
Exactly. Then you have the lifestyle hydrators. You see these a lot in the low-carb and keto communities.
High sodium, zero sugar.
Precisely. They're great for endurance athletes and low-carb dieters who naturally lose more sodium and need massive loads to maintain blood volume. They use that slower passive diffusion pathway, but it's superior for long-term plasma maintenance.
And third, the clean hydrators, the ones using coconut water and things like that.
These are typically lower in sodium, often high in potassium. They're great for daily sipping, for flavor, but they just don't have the sodium density to replace heavy sweat loss.
The market charges this hefty convenience tax, right? $1.50, $2.50 a stick.
Yeah.
But why do they taste so much better than just mixing table salt into water? I mean, why
Yeah.
can't I just do that?
That is the kitchen chemistry secret. It's the use of sodium citrate instead of sodium chloride, which is just table salt.
What's the difference?
When you dissolve sodium chloride at high concentrations, that chloride ion gives a really harsh, metallic, briny taste.
It tastes like seawater.
It tastes like seawater. Sodium citrate gives you the sodium, but the citrate part provides a clean, tart, sour flavor that masks the saltiness. It's also gentler on the stomach and blends perfectly with fruit flavors.
So that's how they pack in 1,000 milligrams of sodium without it tasting like a salt block.
That is the innovation.
Fantastic. So how can our listener replicate the efficacy of a $2 stick for pennies? Give us the citrus salt protocol.
You can absolutely do this. The physiological mechanism and the flavor masking for about 17 cents a serving.
Let's hear it.
It's simple. Start with 500 to 700 milliliters of chilled water. Add the juice of half a lemon or a lime. That's for the citrate and the flavor masking.
Okay. And the engine.
For the electrolyte engine, add a quarter to a half teaspoon of high-quality sea salt. That'll get you 500 to 1,000 milligrams of sodium.
And what if you're really depleted and you want to activate that SGLT1 speed pump?
If you need that speed boost, you're sick, or you're heading into a really intense session, add 1 to 2 teaspoons of honey or maple syrup. That's the glucose key to fire up SGLT1 without the huge caloric load of a traditional sports drink.
It's a beautifully synergistic piece of sensory science. The acidity of the lemon masks the salt, and the salt enhances the lemon's sweetness.
It creates a profile that solves the boring water problem while delivering clinical-grade mechanics. It's a perfect DIY solution.
Let's talk customized hydration now, because the needs change with the activity. Let's start with running. The main challenge there is just carrying the weight of the fluid.
Yes. So the protocol here is aggressive pre-hydration. So many people neglect this. You wake up in a mild state of dehydration, so you have to consume 8 to 16 ounces of an electrolyte solution immediately.
Right when you wake up.
Immediately. Ideally, 20 to 30 minutes before your run. This ensures the fluid is actually in your vascular system before you start moving.
And what was that advanced tip from the sources about performance in the heat?
Oh, the ice bandana trick. It's about applying ice or a very cold compress to your neck.
Why the neck?
The carotid arteries pass close to the surface there. Cooling that circulating blood actually tricks your brain's central governor into perceiving less thermal stress. It helps you sustain performance when the heat would normally tell you to slow down.
Let's shift to resistance training. Lifting. This is often overlooked. You're not sweating gallons, but hydration is still. It's anabolic signaling.
It's absolutely crucial. The goal in lifting is cellular swelling, what we all call the pump.
Right.
As metabolites build up during a set, water rushes into the muscle cell. That turgor pressure, the physical pump, is a powerful trigger. It signals the cell to reinforce itself. It triggers protein synthesis.
So I walk into the gym dehydrated. My cells are literally shrinking.
Exactly. Dehydration causes cell shrinkage, which your body interprets as a catabolic or breakdown signal. You are actively undermining your gains by being underhydrated.
And this ties directly into one of the most popular supplements out there, creatine.
It does. Creatine works by pulling water into the muscle cell. This is great for strength, but it sequesters that fluid. So if your overall daily intake hasn't gone up, your circulating plasma volume can drop.
Leading to dehydration symptoms.
Exactly. So if you're taking a standard 5 grams of creatine a day, you need to commit to drinking an extra 1.0 to 1.5 liters of water daily just to maintain balance.
That is a critical piece of advice. Okay, finally, let's wrap with the recovery protocol. I'm done with my workout. How much fluid should I drink?
The gold standard for recovery is to consume 150% of the weight you lost.
150%.
Yes. So if
Yeah.
you lost 1 kilogram, which is about a liter, you need to drink 1.5 liters of fluid. That extra 50% accounts for the fluid you continue to excrete after you stop exercising.
And what about sipping versus just chugging it down?
Sipping is always superior. Gulping large volumes of plain water causes a sudden, dramatic drop in plasma sodium.
Which triggers the kidneys.
Forces the kidneys to aggressively produce urine to restore that balance. So you end up excreting the fluid before it can even do its job. Sipping maintains stable blood values and encourages retention.
This brings us perfectly full circle. So, to summarize the verdict from all the sun-dried sources, is lemon water the daily savior?
It's a phenomenal source of flavor and an excellent structural health tool for your kidneys because of the citrate, but it is insufficient for acute heavy rehydration. There's a huge sodium gap.
And the commercial products, are they scientifically valid?
Oh, absolutely. High sodium drinks are powerful physiological tools for retaining fluid and maintaining blood volume way better than water alone, but for most daily activities, they're an unnecessary expense.
You're paying for convenience and the sodium citrate.
You are.
So what does this all mean for the listener's daily life?
It means you should implement the citrus salt protocol. It's cost-effective. Remember that ratio of sodium, citrate, and fluid. Use it for your high-intensity days or to fix that morning dehydration.
Inexpensive sticks.
Reserve those for extreme needs. A long race, recovering from illness, real sustained depletion. And monitor your status. Use the WT protocol. Check your weight, your urine color, and your thirst level.
Right.
Hydration isn't a passive thing. It's an active performance enhancer.
That is a perfect action plan. And here's the final provocative thought. Based on what the experts are now researching for elite performance, the challenge isn't just about how much to drink during an event. It's about how to strategically expand your body's fluid capacity before you even begin. Elite athletes are now preloading with high-sodium solutions to literally expand their fluid tank. The goal for you is to stop being reactive to thirst and start being proactive about your hydration capacity.